Hello, this is our EDTC 615 Group 2 Data Meeting number 1, Malika Benton and Michael J. Dombrowski. We met on Monday, September 6th. We met for about an hour and a half. We met on Google Meets. Also had a Google collaborative doc where we planned our information and typed everything in and kind of planned ahead and texted and follow up through our phone communication. In the past, I was an English 10 and theater arts teacher for about 13 years. I'm currently at a middle school doing more of an instructional support role. I'm going to return to English and theater. Malika has experience with elementary, with tutoring for college and high school for about 7 years, and she's currently working in an English 10, 9th and 10 high school setting, which is what we're going to kind of focus on. We noticed that the goals and objectives for each 1, 2, and 3 kind of followed the same pattern with students. So we kind of plotted out some data with some line charts, noticed that the overall trend kind of geared towards averaging up for each objective. I also sorted the data with some color coding in Excel to give an idea of who's scoring well, who's scoring poorly, and to see the trends of data. And then also this is a sort kind of from lowest to highest to give us a kind of different view of that data. I started with our I noticed statements. I noticed that most of the individual students had similar scores across all 3 objectives, that attendance and homework completion did not necessarily translate to better student performance data, but that students who averaged an 8 or higher did tend to have high student attendance and homework. Average overall scores for 1 were the highest, for objective 2 were the middle, and 3 were the lowest, and student scores in each objective didn't change much from one test to another. I noticed that 7 students with IEPs tended to score lower, averaging 6 or less on each objective test, and that the 2 students with the lowest scores had IEPs but good attendance and homework completion scores. I noticed that the average score for all 3 objectives did improve about a half a point on each objective between test 1 and 5. Students 15, 21, and 22 have very poor attendance, homework completion rate, and test scores, and that only 1 student with an IEP scored proficient on the MSA math test. The other 6 with IEPs scored only at a basic level. Moving on to Malika's observations, she noticed that student 11 did significantly better with goal and objective 3. Students 18 is missing attendance data. Student 5 is perfect attendance and received a 5 out of 5 on homework accuracy and completion. Student 17 scored at least a 6 on each test on every goal and objective. Students that scored a 1 or lower on homework scored poorly on tests within the goals and objectives, and student 1 has limited English proficiency, had good attendance but average homework, and that student also scored higher on goals 1 and 2. I wondered, we moved on to our I wonder statements. I wondered why students' scores didn't seem to improve very much between test 1 and test 5. I wondered why students weren't performing as well on objective 3 as they were on objective 1. I wondered if appropriate testing accommodations were made for the 2 lowest performing students with IEPs, since their attendance and homework completion percentages were high but their scores are so low. I wondered why the average scores increased between on objective 2 on test 2 and 4 but decreased again on test 5. I wondered if the limited improvement shown in the data is the direct result of instruction or could be attributed to normal deviation of scores between tests, and what the data might look like for other classes and scores if improvements would show similar results. Malika was wondering how different each goal and objective actually is, what the attendance of student number 18 is, why student 19 did so well in goal 1 and not so well on goal 3, what the 30.4 data computes to in terms of the limited English proficiency learner and what the scale is there. Some exploratory questions we developed, what kind of assignments and projects can we use to improve student learning in these areas? Are there better ways to assess student understanding and achievement in these areas for students with IEPs? So that's 2 of the exploratory questions that I developed. And then Malika said, how can instruction be differentiated so that all students have increased mastery across goals and objectives? And how can goals and objectives be inclusive so that the only limited English proficiency student is also increasing their scores? So improving for the next meeting, we will spend more time learning how to manipulate data in Excel, do more pre-planning and reviewing of data to utilize our time more effectively during meetings. We'll clarify how we want to focus and apply our standards and objectives using high school English standards, review the types of data and artifacts and gather artifacts relevant to our exploratory questions, and try to stick to a set day and time for our data meetings.